am not the co-producer of this show. I was helping him tonight. I'm not the co-producer. Do not want that.
So we do this thing where we have like an ECD segment. We like, interview some famous people from Chicago. She's been into the Second City for 10 years.
11 years.
11
12
years.
Actually, 12 years. Actually, 2 weeks ago was 12 years. So 12 years. He thinks I'm so old I've been for 25 years.
No,
that's how old he is.
No, that's not. I'm terrible with numbers. I remember names.
That's fine. That's fine, 12 years. Yeah, I've been at the second. But the thing is, I walked into that building when I was 19, and I never left. So I saw my very first show at Tina Fey and Rachel Dratch and Scott Adsit and who else was in that? There was Kevin Dorff and then Jim Zulevich. And I walked in, I was 19 years old, I thought it was a magical place. All my favorite people were on the wall. Everyone from SNL was on the wall. And I was like, what is this place? And I immediately felt like, this is all I ever want to do. Like, this is the moment where I was like, this is what I want to do. I wanted to do sketch comedy at Second City. And I auditioned 5 times. And the last time they said, you're getting close. So then I said, fuck this place. And I left. They didn't notice. I went off. I founded my own theater. I did that for a while. It was pretty miserable being a business owner. Any small business owners? No? You are better off. Did that for a while. It was pretty miserable. At one point, I got hired by a Second City's gay company. It was called Gay Co. It was a gay sketch comedy to direct some pickup shows for them. And I really liked directing them. And I never really had done that before. So I went back to Second City. I was like, this is really where I want to be. I don't know why I'm fucking around doing other stuff. And I applied for the directing program. I got in my first time, which was awesome. I had unfeathered access to alumni, to archives. It turns out to be a 70-hour-a-week program at some point for a whole year. You're shadowing directors and creating shows and all this stuff. But I had to memorize running orders from 1987 in Canada. Like, it wasn't fun all the time. But then at the end of that, they gave me a job teaching sketch comedy, directing the students' grad shows. And then about 6 years later, they said, we don't have any women teaching stand-up. And people are complaining. Would you mind moving from the sketch writing program over to stand-up? And I hadn't done stand-up at that point, but it really is not that different. You're taking people, getting them comfortable on stage, helping them with joke construction. It's very similar to writing sketch comedies and directing, especially getting students ready. So I did that, and then about 2.5 years ago, after post-pandemic, I no longer own theaters. I no longer own anything or produce anything. I decided to start stand-up. So I've been doing stand-up now for 2.5 years, even though I've been teaching it for 7.
Well, you've been at the Center of Chicago comedy scene for years now. Second City.
I have been doing comedy for 25 years, just not stand-up.
Oh, that makes sense. Improv, Olympic, comedy theaters, teaching. Where's comedy heading today? Are we getting too sanitized, or is it still as raw and creative as ever?
Do you know what I think is going on right now? Is a glut. It's a little bit of a glut. Now, this happened with improv, where we had like 700 improv theaters, and at some point the market was like, we don't like improv. So a lot of those started to go away. Now we have the pandemic, you have maybe 15 improv theaters left. We have lifted restrictions finally after a whole year of not being on stage. Nobody wants 10 sweaty improvisers in a tiny box sweating all over each other, right? So everyone starts doing solo shows and storytelling shows and stand-up. And you have a flood of these improvisers who no longer can get on stage who are like, I'll try stand-up. That's what I did. And so now you have this glut of pandemic stand-ups who are like, I'm trying it, I'm doing it, I'm out here doing it. And there's, I feel like maybe 3 times as more stand-ups now than they were before the pandemic. So you just have more comics. Way less, we only now have maybe out of the 15 improv theaters that were left before the pandemic, I think we have 4 now. So stand-up has been this insurgent, because in the 90s it was huge. Stand-up was everywhere, and then Comedy Central was like, do you want stand-up in your living room? 900 hours of your life? And so then everyone's like, why do I have to go to a comedy club? I can see all these stand-ups on Comedy Central in 22-minute sections at a time. Then all of a sudden that bubble burst, and people weren't as interested because they saw so much stand-up on television. They saw so much. And so the stand-up club started closing. And before the pandemic, in the city proper, we had 2. Now within 1 hour of the city, we have 8. So that shows you how stand-up is growing and becoming, this moment again. And improv is really taking the back seat. Sketch always lived kind of in between those 2 places. So that's where I think there's going to be another bubble that bursts. I think a lot of times people say for stand-up that 5-year mark is when you start cooking for you. I think there's going to be a lot of people that started in the pandemic that are going to quit before that 5-year mark, and then things will shake out. That's what I think is going to happen.
So you said earlier that you auditioned for SNL like 5 times?
No, I auditioned for Second City, but
Oh.
I have never auditioned for SNL.
All right.
I couldn't even get on touring company, let alone audition for SNL.
So you work with everyone, you run your own theater, you've done a Second City, and you stay hungry in this business after all that success. What keeps you going?
What keeps me going? My kids, my husband, they're great. I really do. I am madly in love with my husband.
You really have 3 kids?
90% of the time.
I know you mentioned that you stand up a lot.
I have 2 children. I have 2 children. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I have a 13-year-old daughter. I said 12 for the joke because that's when she took everything into account. Yeah, she hates that joke because she's so shameful that I caught her. I caught her before, we caught her before anything bad happened. So it just so everyone knows, but it was a rough little hour for that girl. No, my kids and my family obviously keep me going, but you know what? The thing is with stand-up for me is that I became so free. I no longer had a director. I had to tell me what my jokes worked and what didn't, or what I should be doing and what I shouldn't. I no longer had to be beholden to employees and improvisers and being told I'm good enough to be in this team but not this team. I decide what's good enough. I decide what I think is funny, and they are the ones that tell me. Not a director, not a booker, not a fucking other stupid comic backstage. They tell me if it's funny, and then I know it is. And it's so fucking freeing to not have to be told, sorry, by a fucking white guy, what he thinks is funny for me. So I love it.
Oh, that's a really good answer. I kind of let's keep let's that's really good. I understand. I always tell comics like that are studying. I'm like, don't go to open mics. It's stupid.
Well, you have to in the beginning, because here's the thing. In the beginning, when you're a baby comic, you just graduated Second City, 8-week classes, or you came to the Comedy Plex and took my all-female stand-up class at just half the price. Then where do you go? You can't just email Zanies and be like, hi, I graduated Second City stand-up 1 class. Can I have a spot, please? You have to go. You go to the open mics not just to test material and to bomb a lot, because open mics suck, but to meet other comics at your level so that when they start a bar show, they'll put you on their show. It's networking. It's like getting a job. You have to go out there and shake hands and go, hi, I'm Angie. I need work.
Well, I understand that, but the thing is, I always tell them, like, you said earlier, comedy is saturated right now. Too many comedians, too many comedy clubs. Yeah, that's
no, not too many clubs. We are just getting to the point where we're getting 7 is not enough to accommodate the amount of comedians that are in the city right now.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I started producing this show. I was like, maybe if I produce mine to inspire more people to produce more shows, then we have like an industry. That's what Chicago is lacking.
Well, it didn't always, it ebbed and flowed. There was a time when the Lincoln Lodge, which is an independent theater, independent stand-up theater up in Wicker Park, check them out. I believe they have three spaces in there, and they're constantly doing stand-up shows, and they make it affordable for newer comedians to rent a space and try to produce a show. But when the Lincoln Lodge was kind of at its height, you had TJ Miller and Hannibal Buress and Kumail Nanjiani and Cameron Esposito, all company members at the same time at that club. And so they were unstoppable, and there was almost no need for any place else because they had the best talent. Now, the talent, you had Chelsea bounce to another show. People are all over the place, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not that they're dedicated to one space saying, we are a Lincoln Lodge comic.
Yeah.
It used to be like, I cast at Zanies. I'm a Zanies house comic.
Yeah.
Nobody has those comics anymore. It's the fucking Hunger Games out here, you know? It's like, what do I gotta do, Mr. Booker, to get that spot? They're like, we don't do casting couches anymore. I'm like, that's fine. The parking lot's fine.
Let's get